Hello, fifth graders. So today I'm going to go over the topic 1 test from Friday. So the first question, what said, choose all the expressions that are equal to 5 times 10 to the power of 4. So 10 to the power of 4, remember, means multiply yourself by yourself as many times as this exponent right here says. So I'm multiplying 10 by itself 4 times. So the only place I see 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is this option down here. And it's 5 times that because the 5's here. So this is the last option. And then 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is equal to 10,000, which has 4 zeros. So it's the third and the fifth option. The next question, it was basically saying it gave us a decimal in word form and we had to write it in number form or standard form. So it was 52,830. So the only one that says 52,830 is this one. And then it said 1900ths, and that matches as well. So it was the third option for that. The third question, it said North High School has 5,000 students. South High School has 1/10 as many. So if South has 1/10 of 5,000, okay, that means they have less than North, okay? And basically 1/10 of 5,000 is the same thing as saying 5,000 divided by 10. So South High School has 500 students. The next question, it said choose all the comparisons that are true. And this hint was very important. It said stack up the decimals so it is easy to compare. So for example, this first one, if we stack them up, I could easily see and compare the place values. Because just remember, just because a decimal has more decimal places does not mean that it's greater. If we look at this, the 3's are the same. But then if we compare the 10ths place, I can see that 2/10 is greater than 0/10. But here, they're saying that that is greater, which is not true, okay? So if you were to stack up all the things, so for example, if we did the second one, 2 and 3600ths stacked up next to 2 and 306 thousandths. We compare the 1's place, they're the same. The 10ths place is the same. But the 100th place, we have 600ths and 000ths. So I know that this one's bigger because 600ths is bigger than 000ths. So this one is true. So it was the second one that is true. And then it was also the fourth one. Okay, so remember, always stack up those decimal places so it's easy to compare the place value. The next one, it said write 2 decimals that are less than Laura's, which is here, and greater than Billy's, which is here. Okay, so Laura shaded 60 squares on her hundredths grid, or that's the same thing as saying 60 out of 100. Billy shaded 50 squares, or 50 out of 100. So now we have to convert those to decimals. 60 hundredths is 60 hundredths like that, and 50 hundredths is 50 hundredths written like that. So we have to come up with 2 decimals basically that are in between these decimals. Okay, so there are a lot of options. All right, you can do 51 hundredths, 52 hundredths, 53 hundredths, 54, and so on. So an example could be 55 hundredths and 56 hundredths, or 57 hundredths, okay? Because this is 60 hundredths, this is 50. So all of these options here we can choose from to get to 60 hundredths. The next one, it said write 2 decimals equivalent to Laura's. So Laura's decimal is 60 hundredths. So remember, equivalent decimals all we can do is add trailing zeros, because remember, trailing zeros, or those zeros that come at the end of the decimal, do not change the value. So you can write that 6/10 is the same thing as 60/100. You can add some zeros, okay, because these trailing zeros right here do not change the value. Okay, so yours may differ a little bit, but as long as you have some sort of trailing zero. The next one, it says Maria walked 4 35 kilometers. Okay, in expanded form, the 4 is in the ones place. So that, and that have 4 in the ones place. There is nothing in the tenths place. So they're saying 3 is in the tenths. That's wrong. This 3 is not in the tenths, and this 3 is not in the tenths. 3 actually, I can see, is actually in the hundredths. So the only one that shows 3 times 1/100th is option B. Because remember, you have to multiply it by its place value. And the 5 is in the thousandths. So 5 times 1/1000th. And we're multiplying by fractions because they're all parts of wholes. They're tiny, tiny numbers. The next one, again, was a comparison problem. Eddie's plum weighs 3 42 ounces. Dessa's plum weighs 3 24 hundredth ounces. Remember, just because it has more decimal places does not mean it's greater. So I am going to stack them up and compare. The ones place, they're the same. The tenths place, I see 2/10 and I see 0/10. And I know that 2/10 is greater than 0/10. So Desta's plum is greater. And I can tell that by saying and comparing the tenths place. The next one, it says, during hockey season, Elena averaged 5 625 assists. Okay, so you have to write it in expanded form. So this 5 right here is just 5 times 1. The 6 is in the tenths place, so we multiply it by 1/10. The 2 is in the hundredths place, so we multiply it by 100th. And lastly, the 5 is in the thousandths place, so we multiply it by 1,000th. So that's it written in expanded form. Remember, expanded form is stretched out. Then the last part was written in number names. And basically what that means, write it out loud. So for example, it is 5 and 600, because we just say the number after the decimal, 625, and the 5 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandth spot. So it's 5 625 thousandths. All right. So you had to submit a picture to show me that you wrote it in expanded form and in number names. If you did not submit a picture, I don't have an answer for you, so I couldn't do anything about that. All right. The next one, it says find the pattern. So it went from 300 to 30 to 3. So already I see that it's increasing or decreasing, getting smaller. Then we have 3/10. Next would come 300ths and then 3,000ths. So it's decreasing. And the next question was saying, what's the relationship? So obviously we know it's getting smaller, and it's getting smaller. And we also know every step is dividing by 10, which is the same thing also. You can say every step is 1/10 of the one before. So we know it's going from big to small. And it can keep going. We can have 300ths, 3,000ths, 3/10,000ths, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And then lastly, Kent completed his homework 52 and 752 thousandths minutes. They said, what is the number round to the nearest 10th? So remember our little rhyme. We say find your place, which is the 10th place. So find your place, look next door, 5 or greater, just add one more. So we add one more to the 7, we bump it up to an 8. So it's all the digits in the front stay the same. The 7 we bump to an 8. All digits behind, zeros their name. So you could have written it like this, rounded to the nearest 10th, or you could have just written it like that as well. But again, you had to explain how you decided. Okay, so if you didn't have an explanation, okay, you got some points off because you had to explain exactly how did you get this answer. And you could have gone from anything like I looked at the 7 and then I looked next door at the 5. The 5 told me to round up, okay? Something like that, but you needed to explain your work. All right? So, these are all the answers to the test. Now, what I'm going to attach to the end of this Ed puzzle, okay, is some more practice problems that are very similar to these. And what I'm going to have you guys do, I'm going to have you complete those problems as well, okay? And if you weren't super happy with the grade that you got on the test, okay, this Google form that's attached to this Ed puzzle can hopefully get you some extra points on the test because they're going to be very similar to these questions. But I also just want to make sure that you understand these questions as well. So tomorrow on Tuesday, when we have our Google Meet at 8:30, if you have any further questions with this topic, please let me know and I'll answer any that you have. All right, so complete that Google form and you can possibly get some extra points on your test. All right, have a great day, guys.